What's up, guys? Happy New Year. I wanted to not start off by apologizing because I shouldn't be apologizing about anything, but I did miss my mark with regard to consistency. So, with that, I am sorry to myself for not holding myself accountable. But uh, as you guys have probably followed me, at least on if you guys do follow me on the, short social media like Instagram, which I feel like because I'm so used to that platform and stories, it's just easier to update. But yeah, it's been a busy couple of months, and now we're on episode 9, and I've got a lot to fill you up on. But this one's going to be pretty short, sweet, and simple, just to catch up. Hopefully, let you guys know that I've been thinking about you guys, just because a lot of you guys have been reaching out to me with regard to thanking me and congratulating me on my newborn, as well as just asking me what's up, what can you expect, or what can we expect from Phil in 2025. So I've got my list here of things that I want to cover, starting back with again just life updates. So I think the last time that I was able to jump on a podcast was right around Thanksgiving time frame, and it was right after 1-4 Scout Sniper Platoon got disbanded. So I did a little shout out to those guys, and honestly, right after that was Thanksgiving break, and I had all my family in town. I shouldn't say all, but my mom and my niece, as well as Claire's brother and her mom in town. So, typically when we have family over, we do the best to accommodate and host them. And this is definitely the Filipino side of me, and really my mom. My mom is like, and for those that have been around my mom, especially in the shooting community, like you just know how much my mom loves to host people and cook for people. And so, when we have family come over or friends come over, like our life literally is on hold, and we try to do the best we can to really just entertain them and make sure that they're taken care of. And really that was that week of Thanksgiving. And I was able to get Claire's little brother on a few of my bolt guns. Lawrence, he lives up in Alaska, and it was super cool to shoot with him and connect with him. And actually, during that time, I actually had the brand new Collis K540i, which I dropped a review on it earlier this year. But I spent a week with that, and he was able to not only see it firsthand himself, but it was cool to see the perspective from someone that doesn't know anything about glass when I got him on other pieces of glass that I own, like Leopold's and the other Collises, like just the immediate difference between the optics that he was shooting with my guns and then that Collis K540. So I'm excited to see what kind of splash that optic makes on the market. If you haven't checked it out, I've already done a review on it, or my initial thoughts at least. And so I don't have a unit currently right now. Right now, if you're listening to this, it's SHOT Show season. So as I'm recording this, we're in the middle of the week right now, Wednesday. And so I think you guys will hear this again on Friday is when I'll release it. So but yeah, Thanksgiving is always fun. It's a great time to be obviously thankful for everything. And really Claire was just at that point ready to pop. And so after, the family left, I did, and I'm not going to talk about it on this episode, but for those that again have been kind of paying attention to my social media, I've been working on something behind the scenes, and honestly, that's what's taken up a lot of the bandwidth with regard to just trying to establish some type of balance, right, of not overworking, and making sure that, hey, this is the things that I want to get done during working hours so that I can be present with my family. And so a lot of what's been taking my bandwidth is the Cadre, which again, I don't want to dedicate this episode to it. I'll dedicate actually probably the next episode to talking about what the Cadre is. But essentially, I had a lot of these guys that, me, Matt, and John handpicked to come out and do kind of like an instructor development training program. And that was a week long. So immediate after Thanksgiving with family, did a week of training, and that was awesome. And honestly, that kind of breathed new life into me wanting to teach again, but at a different level of, teaching these instructors what I know and how to deliver a period of instruction and to run a class and to essentially elevate their own individual skills as instructors. Because at the end of the very first thing that we did on day one was a evaluation test to see where everyone's skill sets were at. And everyone, passed, which was great because it showed me that they have kept themselves to a level of understanding and proficiency that I think, again, in today's world, is required to be a professional, quote unquote, long range precision instructor. And again, don't want to dive into the rabbit hole of the Cadre, but yeah, I'm excited to see how this kind of plays out, and talk to you guys maybe in the next episode about what I'm going to be doing for 2025. And so immediately following that, again, just Christmas time frame, we got a Christmas tree, and really just kind of waiting on the baby. And the buildup. Everyone knows that has had kids, knows that there's kind of a anticipation building of like what can we expect when this little boy arrives or a kid arrives, and yeah. And so we had Claire's best friend flew in, and we pretty much spent the holidays kind of, and I mean, it's a holiday season in Cody, so it's super quiet. It's cold, and really just between the Cadre stuff and being with family, just waiting for his arrival. And so my son Arisio Wolf Vallejo was born January 1st, and he was actually the first. We found out he was the first baby in Park County, which is awesome. And Claire actually, her due date was initially December 29th. And so she decided that because she was just over being pregnant, that she was going to do a self-induced, because we did the whole midwife thing. And so she had her birth at home, completely unmedicated, which is, again, something that I'll talk about. But more specifically, what was cool was the midwife just had this like a recipe for like a quote, I shouldn't say natural, that's the word I'm looking for, a way for essentially for her to start her labor. And she had to take a castor oil, and she took it the 31st, and immediately after she took that drink at like 1:30, like 7 hours later, her water broke, and then we were in labor for like just a little under 24 hours. So I think it ended up being like 18 hours. And so that's where we spent our New Year's actually in the pool. And honestly, this is kind of what I wanted to, like, one of the very first things that I wanted to talk about with regard to podcasts is the basic understanding of, like, in order for you to take care of someone, you have to take care of yourself. And so I want to share this with you because it's important. And you hear it all the time in when you travel, like, hey, before you put on your mask or put on somebody else's mask, make sure you put your mask on first. Like, the most simplest thing, right? But when Claire was in labor, and I was kind of helping out with some of her pains and putting pressure. We were both in the pool, and she was drinking water as often as she could, and the midwife and Sarah, her best friend, was helping her out. And at this time, from actually when she started labor to the next morning, so like 12 hours, I hadn't drinking water or eaten anything because I was so focused on making sure that Claire was as comfortable as she could be, and being there for that I could. And so something happened to where Ari was not coming out, and so we had to get out of the pool. And what was crazy is that when we got out of the pool, again, this is now, I'd been soaked in this pool for over 12 hours. And, we were trying a different method of getting Ari out because he was stuck. But, his vitals were fine. And, midwife was super cool. And so, she was just reassuring us that everything's going to be okay. We kept checking on the baby's vitals or his heartbeat, and he was completely undeterred as he's coming down the pipe. And so we got to this. We went to essentially a part of my living room where we tried a different position to help push him out, and essentially that's when like everything caught up to me of the fact that I haven't drinking water or eaten anything. And I literally almost passed out. I remember looking at Sarah, and like both of them, the midwife and Sarah, said that like I just went straight like white. And next thing you know, like, I mean, I'm still conscious through all this, but like I just remember losing all my energy all at once. And Sarah having to force feed me a banana with honey. And again, I it, I'm going to continue to talk about this, but like, I know that we can always get so wrapped around like taking care of others before taking care of ourselves first. And then obviously like what happens, right? So thankfully, Sarah was there to save the day with a banana and some honey, and I was able to bounce right back. And a few hours later, Ari was born, 3:34 exactly. And yeah, it was a very, very, it was the worst, the best day of our lives, just because of how chaotic it was. And my hat is off to all the women out there that fight to bring their children into this world. It is unbelievable. And again, I'm saying this from a place of understanding and the fact that, I wasn't there for Zoe's birth, and Zoe was actually premature. I was actually in Iraq, and I've talked about this, I think in previous podcasts. If not, then here it is. And so I initially didn't know what to expect for the pregnancy. And the midwife was actually giving me props because, I was saying all the right things that I needed to say to Claire to get her through what she needed to get through. But essentially, I think being a part of Arisio's birth was definitely just one of the most, the most impactful things that I'll ever do in my lifetime. And like, again, my hat is off to all the women out there that are able to go through that home birthing process without any kind of medication. Cause like I said, Claire fought for that boy to come into this world. And it's the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen. And so, as everyone knows, the next 2 weeks is pretty chaotic, just getting him on a schedule. And, we were on him, and he's Claire's breastfeeding him. So he's on a rotation initially every 2 to 3 hours, and not knowing that the 2 hours starts when he starts getting, when he starts breastfeeding. And so that was a very interesting learning experience. And yeah, and then all the while trying to, obviously, take the time off that I need to for being with Claire, because I can't function with all the other stuff going on, and be completely present for Claire. I've got all these things going on, but thankfully, because of, my accountability partners like Matt and John, being patient with me, but also, picking up my slack with regard to what we have going on with the Cadre. And honestly, again, I'll talk about this more, but like a lot of people have been reaching out, like, what is different about like starting this training company? And I mean, it's the fact that, I'm spread loading the load with regard to like making sure that, like, to do this right, like it is I mean, is more than a one man show. And honestly, like without John or Matt, I probably wouldn't have stood up another training company just because of the amount of work that goes into doing it the right way. And again, taking on my lessons learned from previous mistakes, and we're like what we're going to build is completely different than what is currently on the market in terms of just overall experience. But anyways, so yeah, that is essentially kind of catching you up until right now. So yeah, welcome to the podcast. That's the last 2 months and 15 minutes. Again, I want to save the Cadre for a completely different episode. I definitely think it deserves its own episode, but I really wanted to catch you guys up, get to my 10th episode before I brought on another person. And so, yeah, I figured this would be a great time. So SHOT Show's going on right now. My buddy Will is texting me, which actually, again, as if I don't have any more irons in the fire, just a little soft plug here. My buddy Will, so Will Orms, also known as Covert Noob, he and I have been really good friends. He's super passionate about precision rifle shooting, and he's like, he is super underrated with regard to like his rifle reviews and stuff like that. But him and I are actually starting our own podcast, but for like just dedicated to precision rifle stuff and competing and all the things precision rifle related. And so we're going to call that podcast Dope Talk. And so actually that episode 1 has already released. So if you are like dedicated to precision rifle learning and just like all of the kind of like behind the scenes ins and outs or whatever, because that's what we're really going to focus on with that podcast. As you guys know, like for my podcast, I wanted to be not just precision rifle focus related. And so that's why we kind of split so it's going to be called Dope Talk. It'll be on YouTube as well as all the podcast streaming platforms. So check that out. And so, shifting gears to, or I guess circling back to like, being able to take care of yourself before others, as obviously Claire is breastfeeding, it takes a lot for the body to produce milk and all these things. And really like, and what I learned over the last 2 weeks, like for me, my goal was to keep Claire as, as functional as possible with the cooking and providing meals for her. Whereas like her focus was obviously strictly on the baby, because as much as like I wanted to help out with the baby, where I could, like I realized like my job here was to make sure that like Claire was, eating and drinking water and all these things, because she was so focused on baby. Sometimes like she lost sight of the fact that she needed to take care of herself first. And again, it's so fundamental, in terms of just like how we lose sight of that sometimes, of like, in order for me to be there for other people or show up, like I have to fundamentally take care of myself first. So what does that look like? So ask yourself that, like what are the things that I need to do to really show up for the person that I need to be for either my family or my friends. And it's a question that I'm constantly asking myself because of all the things that I'm very passionate about, all the things that I've got going on, all the things that again that I want to do in this life span that I have, and but I realized that I saw this quote from Hormozy, which was awesome. It's like, you'll never be able to do all the things that you dream of, because it takes you realize that it takes a lot longer to actually walk than it is to dream. I'm butchering that again, like I always do, but I'm paraphrasing here. But essentially, it's true, like so many things. But like going back to, okay, hey, what are the things that are important to me that I need to fill in terms of like my bucket that allows me to show up for my family, between physical fitness, obviously a professional, balancing my professional life, balancing my hobbies, right? Because my hobbies contribute to me showing up for being able to, be a good dad or be a good significant other so that I'm not distracted with like, oh, I need to do these hand loads or I need to compete because, like that's a big part of not only who I am as a shooter, but for my professional life as well as a content creator and a professional instructor. So all these things. So my hat is off to all of the dads out there that do all of the things, as well as all the moms that again put their lives on hold for 2 or 3 months while they bring this baby into the world and take care of them the best that they can. And so we're learning all these cool mom and dad newborn hacks on Instagram. And that's what's cool about social media, is all these, all these like creators that have all these, again, pro tips. And it's funny, it's like, if you make your following like for newborn stuff, does that mean you stay pregnant to like keep attracting that same audience? Because like 3 years from now, like what if your baby is like, now 3 or 4? Like, so I don't know. Random thought. Okay. So I typically don't write down goals and I need to start doing this, is actually like writing down what my goals are for the year. And I actually wrote down some goals for the Cadre. But like as in terms of for myself, I would say, professionally, for like from like a YouTube or, creator standpoint, like this year, my goal is to break 100,000 followers. Right. Like I've been putting this off and I've been wanting to make sure that I do what I can and put the systems in place to get that. And it's a tough feat to get to that 100, just because it requires a lot of consistency. It requires really engaging content to hit the algorithm. But also I think it, at the end of the day, requires the consistency on my part that I know I'm lacking, which brings me into why I struggle with consistency. And again, this is just an excuse that I have, but like, my perfectionism of like always wanting to improve from my previous video, or anything that I do, like I always try to improve upon. Like even when I would do a class, like immediately after class, I would debrief within myself or, whoever I was teaching with. And I would ask like, hey, how could have we made that better? Right. Even when we did a little mock class, like the very first thing that we asked the students, like, hey, give us some great feedback points or constructive criticism so that we can make this great, because that's the only way that we're going to grow. And so, when I'm pushing out videos on YouTube, a lot of times guys, are obviously commenting and giving praises and whatever the case is. But for me, from like a creator standpoint, I'm looking at like, okay, well, how can I tell this story better? And so what happens is, because I'm not only such a perfectionist, but wanting to improve upon that, like I'm always thinking about, okay, well, I did this video already this way. How can I improve upon that so I'm not doing the same thing? And I'm so guilty of that, even with like my content. Like, once I talk about one thing, like follow through, I don't want to talk about it again because I've already discussed it. And I realize that like, I've come to realize that like I'm always going to be getting new followers anyways. So like, why not? It's okay to revisit it. But this year, my goal is to not be perfect and just send it and just do it, and just take my own advice when I give people, advice when it comes to making a win call. Like, hey, the only way that you're going to get better at something is by doing it over and over again and by making mistakes. And so that's what you can look forward to this year. With regard to, what you might find on my podcast or my page. And again, I've been talking to other people about bringing them on as podcasts, whether they're other guys that I've served with or other people that have influenced me in some way, shape, or form in just life in general. But, with regard to like my other content stuff, like this year is also the year of, production rifle reviews. So behind me, I've got which you've probably seen it from the other camera. I've got the new Arrow Solus rifle, which I got during Black Friday. And I'm excited to put that through the paces alongside my Seekins Havoc that I won last year or 2 years ago now, that I've had just about for a year now. That thing only has about 300 rounds through it, but I want to give them proper break-in and proper, reviews. But again, very similar to my Tika vlog. I'm not going to just do, that one and done, like, oh, this is my review. Cause like everyone and their mother on YouTube right now is already doing that. They shoot it, maybe for like 3 or 6 months, and they tell you about it, but they're not like actually teaching you. They're just showing you like what that rifle is capable of. And so what I'm going to do differently is I'm going to walk you through, like how I would not only set this up, but like how I would take this thing from like first getting it out of the box to, again, my ultimate level, whether you follow me or not, you compete, like my ultimate level of like, being able to test a rifle's performance is like taking it through competition. And so again, I'm not expecting everyone to go out and compete, but that is going to be like the pipeline in which I structure a lot of these videos is like, okay, hey, this is out of the box. This is how I set it up. These are the considerations when setting up something like this for you, because I realize with like the Arrow Solus, you could be getting the Arrow Solus and you're like, well, how do I set this up? Well, if you got a video of a guy that's like, hey, this is how I set up my Arrow Solus for me, and these are the steps, right, from a foundational aspect, right? Somebody's going to find that video just looking for an Arrow Solus review and hopefully see a whole pipeline of videos or vlogs of like, oh, this guy took it all the way to a competition and did somewhat well. So is it a good rifle? I mean, it's at that point your interpretation of whatever the series is. So, I'm going to do that with both the Arrow Solus, the Seekins, and potentially the new Tika Ace that just came out, which, again, this year is hopefully the year of production rifle reviews, as well as just being able to shoot local and to the local area. I've got a couple collaborations that I also need to do. I've collaborated with Silencer Shop to do a 3-part series with regard to suppressors, so be on the lookout for that. I know I'm all over the place here. I'm just looking at my notes, and I realize I need to wrap this up because I need to get back to baby. But I think I'm estimating anywhere between hopefully, 5 to 7 episodes with each rifle, and then maybe like an own dedicated rifle, like my overall thoughts head to head between the two rifles, the Arrow Solus and the Seekins. And I think again that it's going to be, splitting hairs at that point, because immediately off the bat I can tell that they're just really great rifles for the price point. Taking a couple steps back, I was talking about Silencer Shop, so 3-part video series. And actually, I got 4 new cans in, which I'm excited to test out, which is the Thunder Beast Magnus SRRs. So that's the race ready, which are the ones with the brake on it, and then the Magnus KRR, which is a shorter one, and then I've got the Thunder Beast Ultra 338 for my extended long range rifles and my 300 Win Mag that I still need to shoot. That is just sitting there off to my left. So that's what I want to do as well, is show you some of those differences with regard to like shooting just straight suppress, or with these muzzle devices, or with a muzzle brake on the end of your suppressor, and just the sound difference. And so all these different content ideas that I have, that I've already started building, or the framework and layout for it. And again, the goal is not to be perfect, but to still have a higher level of quality than what you find out there, but also hopefully enough to have an engaging story for you guys to follow along, for those that are watching. Let me know what gear reviews would be most valuable to you. I want to know down in the comments what like, compared to some of your other, favorite long range shooting precision creators that you see, what are some of the stuff that they do? I try to stay everything like from a fundamental focus standpoint, just because I know that A, it's different than what everyone else is doing, but B, you know, um, yeah, I just know, and I'm confident about, like, hey, if you watch this video, I'm gonna harp more on the fact that, you know, you should be spending more time on your basic foundation fundamentals than tweaking your loads uh, to to get single digit SDs, because let's be honest, 90% of the population won't even be able to shoot the difference. Um, I know, and I know a lot of you guys have been asking for gas gun content. I probably won't do gas gun content. Not saying that I won't say never, but in the foreseeable future, maybe it'll be a 2026 project. But right now, 2025, I've got all these bolt guns, as well as another thing that I've been working on behind the scenes that I'm going to be launching hopefully end of first quarter, early second quarter of this year, for you guys. But yeah, um, that's a year. And then in terms of my physical capability, I haven't been running, and so hopefully I'm going to get back to running. I need to take my dog out more. Ever since the baby, he's just been kind of, unfortunately, just hanging out, and I want to take him out. Zoe's been doing indoor track, and she's really starting to essentially, I'm starting to see the competitive drive in her, so I want to be able to run with her, and right now I can't. So hopefully, be able to break back to, let's say, like a 7-minute mile, because right now I'm probably at, if I like really tried, I'm probably right at like 8:30. So 7-minute mile, which would get me back to, back in my old days. I could never break a 6-minute mile. Those were always the 300 P tiers. And then maybe 2026 January, I've been wanting to finally shoot mammoth. So I'll probably double down on the broking program with the human Todd's that backcountry hunter program. I'll have him, I'll ask him to put a rucking program that is sustainable, that allows me to prep not only through hunting season, but also to get ready for mammoth. And I'll actually shoot that with John Bumpus, really great friend of mine, who's also one of the founders of the Cadre recon sniper. You guys are gonna meet him here in a couple episodes, but dude, legend in my book. I have nothing but respect for him. He's been diving deep into precision rifle shooting, shooting matches in California, and I actually shot the NRL Hunter with him, the Gunworks one, as a partner this past June, and we did okay. We struggled with just time management, but yeah, I'm excited to shoot with him some more team matches, and that's one thing that I probably want to start getting into, maybe like late 2025, is some of the sniper team matches that have been popping up, just to, again, put my money where my mouth is. I think it's important just to be able to, not just be a one trick pony. I do love precision rifle series. I love the NRL Hunter, but something about the again, just the tactical nature of when I did shoot sniper competitions when I was in the Marine Corps. It was fun. So I'm excited to see how I can take my skills now that I've evolved as a shooter and now apply it to some of these quote unquote sniper matches. So yeah. Last but not least, again, Alaska 2025. We're coming, me, John, and Matt Solowinski. We're teaching 3 classes up there: a foundation class, a performance competition, and an intro competition. 2 classes in Talkeetna and 1 class in Kenai, which the performance competition is going to be the Kenai class within the first week of June, and then the second week. So performance competition June 4 through 6 in Kenai at the Snowshoe Gun Club, and then foundation precision June 8 through 11 at Talkeetna, or the Upper Susitna Range, and then June 12 through 14 is the intro to competition, which is kind of like a foundational competition course, which we're going to teach you the basic fundamentals of precision rifle, but a lot of it's going to be geared toward some of the modern precision rifle competitions that you find. So again, between precision rifle series, NRL Hunter, and some of the team matches. So we'll expose you to those three types, as well as stage planning and whatnot for the intro to competition. More details about that in the next few episodes. Just want to put it on the calendar, and I'm going to be opening up registration on February 1st. So, if you want to check out and get signed up for any of the emails that we'll have and newsletter and stuff like that, head over to, and I'll link this down below, www.thecadretraining.com. And that's how you'll get, notified with obviously what will be going on this year. We're planning on going to Texas as well as North Carolina. And I'll leave it at that. And then I will also be shooting the NRL Hunter in Alaska this year. I'll be in Alaska for like 3 weeks. So I'm excited for that. Shout out to Sarah Stallone for not only hosting me back up in Alaska this year to teach, but just being an overall great human being. I've been working with her now since August, and she's just been an absolute pleasure to work with. I'm excited to train with her and her team in Alaska. And so I actually asked her to jump on a podcast with me, because she's been running a training company in Alaska at least a training company for over 20 years now. And so I want to, just talk about some of the, behind the scenes of like what it really takes to run a training company the right way. And I think she's been doing a fantastic job up there. And again, I cannot thank her enough for giving me the opportunity to come back home to teach in Alaska with my fellow Alaskans. So for everyone else that might not be going to Alaska, and that's just listening to this, thanks for continuing to, be supportive of my channel. I appreciate everyone that reached out after the birth of my son. Everyone is doing okay. And, to answer another question that a lot of you guys have been asking, Arisio. So Arisio Wolf. Arisio comes from a combination of my grandparents' name. So my grandma on my mom's side, my grandma's name, or Lola, was Aria, and my grandpa's name, or Lolo, was Patricio. So we combined both of those, spelled Auricio. And then Wolf is actually Claire's grandpa's name. His actual first name was Wolfgang, but we just shortened it to Wolf. So it pays homage to both of our grandparents, which I think is awesome and different. But we'll also call him Ari for short. So for everyone that has been wondering how to pronounce his name, as well as where his name comes from. So I think that is all I've got. Like I said, appreciate you guys. If you're new to my podcast, welcome. I know this was all over the place, but hopefully it still was somewhat educational, I guess, or philosophical, especially about taking care of yourself before needing to take care of other people. God, I have a notes on here about the positional triangle, but I don't think I want to get to that. I think I'll reserve that for a different episode, because I think that deserves its own episode in itself. But a question that I'll leave you with is, when you're building a shooting position, and if you were to prioritize between three things: comfort, stability, or recoil management, which one do you prioritize and why? So think about that. Maybe drop it down below in the comments if you made it this far. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Until then, you have control.